Welcome to the February 22nd, 2016 Troy City Council meeting. I will call to order this meeting and ask for the roll call. Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham? Here. Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Here. All present. This evening we are here for liquor violation public hearings. We have, I believe, 8 public hearings this evening. So I will start off with C1, which are the liquor violations, and we'll call A, which is Tabooly Inc., better known as DBA Tabooly. So I will open that public hearing, and I will call upon Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Julie Quinlan Dufresne, and I am one of the assistant city attorneys for the city of Troy. I just wanted to start with a general comment. All of you should have received in your agenda packet for this evening, all of your packets should have included a copy of the violation report that was sent to the MLCC in each of these instances, a copy of the police report that was generated for these instances, a copy of the citations that were issued, liquor license history for each of these establishments, and also the findings of the MLCC and the actual report, if the report is available. I think there may have been one in this section of liquor violation hearings where the report was not available yet. Excuse me. You may have noticed that there was some information in your packets that was blacked out. So there was some information that had to be redacted for legal reasons. So I didn't want anyone. We're not hiding anything, but this does become part of the public record. So certain information like date of birth, addresses, cell phones, home address, that needed to be redacted. So if anyone had any questions about the black mark, that's what those are. So if I could proceed with our first liquor violation hearing, it's with respect to Tabooly. As you read in your packets, the Directed Patrol Unit of the Police Department did sting operations on February 25th, 2015. And while they were conducting their compliance check, they engaged the services of a minor decoy. This particular decoy went into Tabooly, which is an establishment here, a licensed liquor establishment here in Troy. And the decoy ordered a draft beer. The server, it is alleged, did not ask the decoy his age, nor did he ask to see any identification. An interesting about this case is the first beer that the decoy ordered was not available. They were out. So the server actually had a second opportunity to come back and ask for the identification, and he did not. The second time, a different beer was ordered and eventually served to the minor decoy. As far as the MLCC disposition, the vice president of Tabooly appeared, and he did acknowledge, he waived his hearing at that time and acknowledged the violation, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $500. I would note that Tabooly has been licensed here in the city of Troy since 2012, and this is their first violation. Today we have representatives from Tabooly. We have Brian Cook, who is the Senior Operations Director, and he also brought with him Jared Anderson, who is the current General Manager. And I would note that the manager who was on duty on February 20th, 2015, at least according to Mr. Cook, no longer works for Tabooly, so that is why she is not here. So I will defer the podium to Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Dufresne. Good evening, Mr. Cook.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Is there anything you would like to say to council this evening?
No. Yes, there is. As far as everything that she has said, it is true. We failed a liquor sting in February 2015. What I wanted to bring for each one of you, and I assume each one of you has a packet as far as what our current standards are and what we strive to do at Tabooly. It was a packet like this for everybody. And in that, it talks about what we do, what our training practices is, and where we made our mistakes, and what we're doing to move forward. So, real quick, without wasting anybody's time, we have part of our training, which is a responsible service of alcohol class that we teach for our new hires. Part of that is in your book also, where I put in the signed copies of team members that when they first get hired, they are told about responsible service of alcohol, and they are required to sign that, and it states that there is a zero tolerance policy, and if you are caught serving a minor, then you will be terminated immediately. The team member that actually was terminated was one of the lead servers, had a lot of responsibility. She was in great standing in the restaurant, but we have a zero tolerance policy for this, so we had to move forward with that. Without going through this all, I don't know if all of you had a chance to look at it, if you had any questions for me or anything I could do to answer any questions for anyone here.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any questions from council for Mr. Cook? I did receive your booklet. I think that's great that you provided that for us, and my personal perspective, I'm very happy with your zero tolerance issue, and I know this is your first
Right.
offense, and hopefully the last.
It will.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson.
In the book, I noticed there are a handful of forms that the, it looks like your employees have actually signed.
Yes.
Dated. So is every employee that works for you required to go through this training and sign that?
Correct. Every front of the house team member, so the cooks would not be required to sign that document, but all front of the house, it would be your hostesses, your bussers, your servers, your bartenders.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
It's interesting that you have a in-house protocol where you, each general manager will be responsible for conducting an internal sting once a month to evaluate the effectiveness of training. Had that manager ever been caught before in this
No.
in-house training?
No, and a lot of the stings, because we have 2 restaurants, a lot of those stings are generated by me also. I have friends and friends of friends that can come in and try and see what we can get, and no, they have not.
That's a great idea, though.
Councilman Henderson.
Along the line of your personal stings, if they're caught in your personal sting, is the same result for that employee as would have taken place with the police?
Yes, one side note to that is we ID under 39 and a half, so if someone came in and they were 33 years old and they did not get carded by the server, that would be a different, it would probably be a suspension for a week because they are over the age of 21. But if they were under the age of 21 and it was an internal sting, they would be terminated immediately, absolutely.
Questions from council? Mr. Cook, typically in the resolutions that we pass and for liquor violations, we require training all over again for everyone. Would you have any objection to that?
No, I have no.
Okay.
Everyone here has, obviously, since the incident, everyone has been retrained and
They have been retrained?
yes, they've been retrained. We went over everything with them. I have no trouble doing it again. We have an in-house person that teaches tips class. I could even set that up if you'd like.
City Attorney Bloom, did you want to say something in regard to that, if they've already done that?
As far as the tips, the resolution does require them to do it prospectively, so that'd be within 90 days of today's date.
Okay.
So that if you wanted to, if council was confident that they've already had the training, then you could modify the resolution.
I think from my perspective, I'd like to see it done again and documented myself.
Certainly. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Mr. Cook, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Hi, Nancy.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor
evening.
Slater, council members. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Nancy Morrison. I am the Executive Director of the Troy Community Coalition for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Abuse. I'm here this evening just to make the alcohol retailers aware that the coalition can assist them with the tips training. I also have alcohol packets with me. These are educational packets, and they have information in it about what to look for in a fake ID. Of course, employee agreements, and then also tips for training employees as well. I will be in the back of the room if anybody wants to stop by and grab a packet from me or my business card. I'm happy to assist. But I also just wanted to thank the Troy Police Department, too, for performing the alcohol inspections to prevent underage drinking. We know that research shows us that when the longer a person can wait to have their first drink of alcohol, the less likely they are to ever have a problem with alcohol in their entire life. So the alcohol inspections actually reduce the risk factors and increase the protective factors for our youth. And of course, that's what makes Troy one of the safest cities to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And I would encourage all of the businesses here this evening to reach out to the Troy Community Coalition. They're a great resource, and they're free. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Mike Kerr, Troy resident. Good evening, Mike.
My name's Mark Kerr. I've been a Troy resident for over 40 years, and as a matter of fact, had a distinct opportunity to work with Captain Fry, Chief Mayor, Bob Redmond, Dave Livingston, and began the first integrity testing in early 1980s, maybe 1984. I was an infantry platoon leader in Vietnam, saw a bunch of 19, 18, 20-year-old dead soldiers and North Vietnamese soldiers. But when I came here, hired out at the Troy Police Department, my very first fatal accident was up on Crooks Road. And it happened a Friday night football game. And there, laying in the field, was a young lady who later died. And it wasn't until the early 80s that I had a unit full of highly motivated, intelligent, and dedicated people that sat down and says, listen, they haven't learned yet. It's time to go do it. So we did integrity testing back then, and it made a difference for a while. I'm saddened to see that we have, 8 tonight and several more the next meeting, that some of these people have not learned that they play an integral part in keeping our children safe and alive. Seeing dead children is not something anybody will ever forget, particularly when it can be prevented by due diligence from the community, the leadership in the community, the law enforcement community, and those people that furnish alcohol both ways, through packaged liquor or set-down sales. I talked to a lifelong friend on Sunday, and he was involved in the service industry. And he said, Mike, he said, you know what we learned very early, that the training that you put on early on must be checked periodically, and if you're not willing to pay in the beginning, you'll certainly pay at the end through loss of clientele or pay at the window. And I'm hoping that you all keep up the good work here, because obviously there are some organizations in our city that haven't learned that lesson yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Well said. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak this evening on this item? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing, return it to the table for a resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move the C1A resolution. I'd like to read it. Whereas the City of Troy scheduled a hearing as allowed under state law and the City Troy ordinances, Chapter 101, and also the liquor license agreement between the licensee and the city to review the following alleged violation, named Tabuli Inc., 854 East Big Beaver Road in Troy, Class C 211605-2015, SDM 211606-2015, violation sale to minor, compliance test on February 20th, 2015. And whereas, after due notice, the licensee was given the opportunity to review this cited infraction and an opportunity to confront witnesses and/or statements of accusers while in the presence of this City Council, sitting as a hearing body on Monday, February 22, 2016. Now therefore be it resolved that as a result of this hearing, the Troy City Council has been persuaded that the alleged violation did occur as set forth above. Be it further resolved that due to the violation at the licensed establishment, the Troy City Council, after due notice, appropriate hearing, and deliberations, recommends renewal of the on-premises liquor license for the license year beginning May 1, 2016, with the stipulation that all serving employees successfully complete a server training program as defined under state law MCL 436.1906 within 90 days of today's date, and that immediately upon completion, licensee shall submit proof of the successful completion of the server training program to the Troy Police Department. Be it further resolved that if the licensee fails to comply with this condition within 120 days, then licensee shall appear before the Troy City Council after due notice, and that the licensee's failure to comply with the server training condition could serve as a basis for the Troy City Council to take adverse action against the licensee's liquor license. Be it finally resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Support. Thank you for reading that into the record. Moved by Councilman Henderson and supported by Councilman Baker that we approve C1A as read into the record by Councilman Henderson. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck to Boley. Next, I will call upon C1B, which is Maggiano's Holding Corp., DBA Maggiano's Little Italy. And once again, welcome Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne. Good evening.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of council, Mr. Mayor.
Can I open that public
I
hearing
apologize.
first? I'm sorry, thank you.
I know we have another meeting, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to rush through.
No, but it's my fault.
Again, Mr. Mayor and members of council, this is a result. This alleged violation is as a result of a directed patrol unit compliance check. This one was conducted on February 25th of last year. In this instance, the minor decoy entered Maggiano's Little Italy and sat at the bar where he ordered a beer from the bartender. Interesting, all of these cases seem to have one little interesting twist. The particular beer that the decoy ordered, the bartender thought that he might prefer a sample first. And so she didn't actually serve him the beer initially. She gave him just a sample in a cup, which satisfies as a violation. She did so without asking for identification, and she did so without inquiring as to the minor decoy's age. The officers were called into the restaurant, and upon information and belief, the general manager, Mr. Eric Batson, immediately terminated that bartender. At the MLCC, Maggiano's did appear. They acknowledged the violation, the facts of the allegation, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $700. Maggiano's has been licensed here in the city of Troy since 2004. This is their third violation. Their last one was actually a state compliance check. So the city conducts these compliance checks, and also the state. They failed one of the state compliance tests in June of 2014. Today, on behalf of Maggiano's Little Italy, they're represented by counsel Scott Edwards, and Mr. Edwards has with him today Eric Batson, who was on duty on February 25th last year.
Thank you, Ms. Dufresne. Good evening.
Good evening, council. My name is Scott Edwards. I'm the attorney. Mr. Batson is here. He's the manager. Maggiano's is a corporation of the part of the Brinker Group, and they take their responsibilities seriously. For alcohol service, I was talking with Eric beforehand. He said this is the first time he's been before a city council on a matter like this. Usually it's for charitable things or getting an award, and he says it's a very humbling experience. As was pointed out, the employee has been terminated. She no longer works there. That's consistent with the zero tolerance policy that they have there. Eric is a surf-safe trainer, and I'll let him, because you don't want to hear it from me, you want to hear it from him as to what they're going to be doing as far as their training and how they do it internally. And certainly the resolution as proposed will get everybody trained in 90 days, get those certificates to the council within that time, brand-new training for all the service. So Eric, if you can talk about the...
Yeah, as our council was saying, we have, since this incident, we have already started our training internally. I am a certified surf-safe instructor, and that's been to our benefit. One of the things, though, as I was telling my lawyer, this is extremely humbling because at the same time, we want to prove that we have great community relations, and I think I've shown that in the 9 years that I've been with Maggiano's here in Troy. The disappointing thing is it's also, from the humbling point, we've learned some valuable lessons. We need to be more diligent. We have to be more acknowledging. But more important, we have to be assertive in following and making sure that the community is safe.
Thank you.
And with that, if the council or mayor have any questions, we're happy to answer the suggestions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilman Campbell.
Yeah, I noticed that you had, your last violation was from the state a year ago.
Correct.
So what happened, if you did all this training a year ago, how did this happen again?
Well, the unfortunate thing at that time, the individual that was terminated, his was more on a greed factor, and I do apologize for using that term, but it was. As with this last instance, the employee was immediately terminated. I can't say what can control someone's desires, but moving forward from that one, we kicked up the training, started pushing it, and then unfortunately we had this incident.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Councilman Henderson.
On the June of 2014, looking through the documents, it didn't appear that any training was required as a result of that. But you said you put the training in place.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask council was that a sting operation that the city of Troy was involved in, or no?
No, the June 2014 was a state compliance check. It was not conducted by the Director Patrol Unit of the City of Troy. That was a separate event.
Okay, and so the state, when they do those, they don't require any training necessarily, or they do, but we just don't know about that.
To be honest, I'm not sure what the state. I would have thought that the state would require some sort of training, but yeah, because that's separate, I'm not aware of what they required.
I think maybe the attorney for Maggiano's would probably know that answer.
I would indeed. No, the state typically does not require any training. In a situation like this where it was gone in and acknowledged, it's really the payment of the fine is all that they care about. If the check clears, pretty much the state's happy.
Thanks.
And if I can say, though, Michigan does require that if managers or supervisors have to have ServSafe or TIPS training. That is one thing that Brinker had acknowledged, and that's why my whole management team, as well as myself, are certified.
Questions from council? Councilwoman Hoderick.
So when you do this training, I suspect there's some turnover in
Yeah.
bartenders, wait serving staff. Are you serving or training each new hire, or do you have quarterly training?
Well, what we do is, as we're going through the hiring process, there's two questions we ask, previous experience, but also, are you certified? If they're already previously certified, if they're certified under TIPS, we go ahead and we train them under ServSafe. If they've already got their ServSafe certificate, and they're usually 3 years valid, we'll go ahead and we'll let them, come on board. But the biggest thing is my AOM, Linda Wilson, she keeps track. She has basically a spreadsheet set up now. So as people are coming closer and closer to their anniversary dates, we're going ahead and getting them into the training.
And
Sure.
do they understand its termination if they don't follow through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought Tiboli's had a great internal check. You might want to think about doing that yourself. I think that's a great way to do it more than just once a year from somebody outside, personally.
Yeah, we do have individuals, friends of mine, family members come in to checked service, food service, things like that. But listening to his suggestion, I thought it was a fantastic idea.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
If it's happened twice in 2 years also, I would want you to visit the Troy Community Coalition and see what their suggestions would be on how we could tighten that up also.
Absolutely.
Maggiano's has been a great partner for the city for a long time. And I understand that it hurts when you have to come before us because you are such a great partner. So let's hope this is the last time, hopefully. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for a resolution. City Attorney Bloom, if it's almost the exact verbatim resolution, would it be okay to
Yes.
read it as printed, or
Yes.
to save some time?
Yes, that is appropriate, and, really the only things, the proposed recommendation requires the tips, the server training within 90 days.
All right. Although it isn't going to be necessarily read into record on every resolution, please pay attention to the first resolution because there were some facts in there that needed to be presented. Is there someone on council who would like to move this resolution? Councilwoman Hoderick.
I'll move the resolution as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Hoderick and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington that we approve C1B, Maggiano Holding Corp., as printed in the agenda. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Next, I will open a public hearing for TGI Friday, Inc., which is C1C, DBA TGI Fridays. And once again, good evening, Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm going to open the public hearing.
I did.
You did, okay. Before we begin, I was remiss in not acknowledging the hard work of the police department, and I wanted to make sure that we thanked Chief Mayer for allowing these directed patrol units to take place. With us in the audience today, we have Captain Fry of the police department, and then also Sergeant Gobler, who was very active in these sting operations this past year. And I'd also like to personally acknowledge Jeff Oberski, who was instrumental in helping me put together a lot of this information. So I apologize for not thanking them at the outset. Another housekeeping matter, it came to our attention after the public notice, after the hearing notices went out, that TGI Fridays, their license was actually transferred to another licensee. So that record will have to be corrected. The licensee is Central Florida Restaurant, Inc., and that license was actually transferred prior to the sting operation. It was September of 2015, but that we were not made aware of that till after, so I apologize for that mistake in your packets. This sting operation, again, is another sale to minor. It occurred on November 24th, 2015. The minor decoy, in this case, entered TGI Fridays and ordered a bottle of beer from the bartender. The bartender failed to ask for identification and failed to inquire of the decoy's age, and then the bartender proceeded to serve the beer. We do have with us today, we don't have, I apologize. At the MLCC, this is the one case where the City of Troy has not received a copy of the order, but I did inquire. You can look online as to see what the disposition is, and in this particular instance, they were issued a fine of $700. I believe they entered a plea of acknowledgement. The attorney will be able to clarify that. TGI Fridays has been licensed in the City of Troy since 1982. They've been at their current location since 2006. And they've actually had no violations at their current location since until November of 2015. But prior, when they were at their old location, they had 5 sale to minor violations from 1985 to the year 2000. So again, Mr. Edwards also represents TGI Fridays, or Central Florida Restaurant, Inc., and he has with him today Corey Day, who is the current manager at TGI Fridays.
Good evening.
Good evening again. Scott Edwards appearing on behalf of TGI Fridays. Let me clear up a little more on the housekeeping, if I may. TGI Friday restaurants, there are 13 of them in total in Michigan, were acquired by Central Florida Restaurants, Inc., with an S back last year. It went through the Liquor Control Commission process, was approved, and when I saw this resolution come out, I saw that the city hadn't made the connection between TGI Fridays, Inc. and the new operator, who is still operating them as TGI Fridays. Most people probably didn't even know there was indeed a change, and they've been here in Troy since September. And with me today, I've got Corey Day, who is the regional manager for all the TGI Fridays in Michigan, and I have Tracy Barnes, who is the manager on site at the location, and they'll both discuss the various aspects of what we're doing to make sure this situation doesn't happen again. There was indeed a fine through an acknowledgement of $700 through the MLCC that was taken care of. And if I can make one thing clear from the first one also, when a new license is issued, what the Liquor Control Commission requires by state law is that all supervisory personnel be trained and that you provide cards to the state of Michigan within 180 days of the time of licensing. So that is, the supervisors are required to be trained, and you have to show the state that you've trained them. Now, when you have a violation at the state level, they require nothing additional into that. Sometimes they could in special circumstances, but for the most part, it's usually just a fine. So I just want to be clear what the state's role is. I didn't mean to be too flippant about what they're doing. And so with that, Corey, do you want to talk about?
Absolutely. Hi, thank you very much for having us. I'm sorry that we're here on this occasion. In the last 6 or 7 months since we've taken over this company, we decided to really get a little bit more serious about this. All of our managers are state certified, and all of our employees are also certified through a ServSafe alcohol program. In this market, we have 9 stores, and when I first took this store over, or this group over in July, we had 1 person who was state certified to test and give the state testing. Now we have 3. And the intent was just to make everybody more aware of it. We are absolutely in the process of retesting. We'll be happy to provide documents on that. It's not a problem at all. We're very serious about this program. We do have a zero tolerance policy as well. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's automatic dismissal, and the employee was dismissed that evening. With that said, I'll turn it over to Tracy to tell you what we're doing on a local store basis.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having this evening. I'm sorry it's on such terms. Since, I believe it was November 24th, it was a Tuesday afternoon, I was the manager on duty. Since that date, daily, twice a day, we have alley rallies or shift meetings where we bring everybody in and just kind of let them know what's going on. And this is one of the topics since then that we've just trying to drive in, because like you said, we do have high turnover in restaurants. So just because you talk about it today doesn't mean in 2 weeks that same group of people are in front of you. So it's really important to us that it's not getting put on the back burner, that we're discussing it every day. All of my employees in the building, front of house and back of house employees, are certified in what we call Serving Up Responsible Fund, which is our ServSafe alcohol program. My back house employees, once at the time of hire, and then all my front of house employees, if it's a busser, a host, server, bartender, they get certified once a year.
Thank you. Sounds very proactive. Any questions from council for Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
I see, what's troubling about this one is that it was a bartender that served, our decoy that came in, and so she asked our decoy if she wanted a beer, and she was told that she didn't have her ID with her, and so she wasn't served. But then she came back later on and served her. So I'm just curious, what was her thinking that?
I had the same, I said, she was 17 years old. What happened? And she said, well, you know, she said she didn't have ID, and I asked her if she had something, and I forget what she rattled off, and I think she said she had a credit card with her picture on it. And she said, so because she had a credit card, I thought she was old enough. And I said, okay, you know, there's 4 forms of identification we accept. Is that one of them? And she said, no.
So just to follow on that, so just out of curiosity, when you hire a bartender, I could see a server being busy and missing, you know, and, you know, slipping up and obviously costing their job. But a bartender, you know, I would think that, you know, that's their business. They would, so when you hire a bartender, do you do a background check to see if they've been fired before for serving a minor?
No, we do not do background checks.
Okay. I was just curious.
Thank you. Questions from council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilwoman Abraham?
I'll move Resolution C1C as printed.
City Attorney Bloom, we need to amend that to Central Florida Restaurants, Inc.
Yes, Mayor, that is correct. So that would be where it says name, you would replace name for that. So it would be as revised.
And I'll move C1C as revised for the name.
Thank you.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Abraham, supported by Councilman Baker, that we approve C1C as amended with Central Florida Restaurants, Inc. Is there discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Hope we won't see you here again. Next, I will open a public hearing for H Mart Troy LLC, DBA H Mart. Once again, good evening, Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. So this one is a little bit more unusual. This is not part of the Directed Patrol Unit compliance checks. This was a situation where the police department actually received an anonymous tip that there were at the time, the tip was several employees at the H Mart who appeared to be intoxicated. When the officers arrived, they could not find anyone who was in an intoxicated state, but one of the employees indicated that the manager had been there and confirmed that he did have glassy eyes and was acting strange and was likely intoxicated. You should know that it is a violation of the liquor code for a licensee, a clerk, a servant, an agent, or an employee of the licensee to be in an intoxicated state on the licensed premises. You should know that in this particular case, the licensee did appear at the MLCC hearing, and they pled no contest, which means they did not acknowledge the facts of the violation of the report. And as the attorney will explain in a moment, that was to avoid suspension of their license. They were ordered to pay a small fine. You should know, ladies and gentlemen of council, that H Mart used to be E Mart. H Mart is now a nationwide franchise, as they will explain to you in a moment. Their license was transferred from E Mart to H Mart in April of 2013, and as some of you may recall, they had a prior sale to minor violation back in March of 2014. Today, on behalf of H Mart, is their attorney, Michael Szymanski. And he also has with him the manager, Mr. Yoon, who is the one who is alleged to have been intoxicated on the premise on January 7th, 2015. There may be a bit of a language barrier, so Mr. Szymanski has advised me that he has brought with him an interpreter by the name of Mr. Chung.
Could I ask, Mr. Frayne, what happened, I can't recall, what happened with the city case on this? Was there a city case on this at all, where anyone was cited from the city police department for being intoxicated on premises? Or
Well, what happened, because there was when the police officers arrived, the person Mr. Yoon was not
They
there.
didn't follow up and ticket him?
No, there was not a citation issued.
Okay.
No.
I can clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Michael A. Shemansky on behalf of H Mart, and I have with me here Mr. Yoon, who is the manager of the facility and an employee of H Mart, and the one allegedly intoxicated. I also would like to point out that I have with me Catherine Lee from the New Jersey head office of H Mart, which is an indication, her coming in, of how seriously they take any problem that is had here. And we also have present the attorney who is the owner of the premises, and he's the landlord for the company, and he may want to say a word or two, and he's also an attorney. So, but very briefly, again, this is an unusual situation because it's an allegation of intoxication on the of an intoxicated employee on the premises, which is a lesser charge, but again, we take it no less seriously. The charge was, the incident was reported to the Liquor Commission, and because it's a violation, we had a Liquor Commission hearing. They filed a complaint, I filed an answer, we negotiated a settlement, and we pled no contest, mainly because we wanted to avoid any possibility of there being a suspension of the license, which we felt would be a disservice not only to the company but to the community. And I will say that without going into details, my client had left the premises. He had already instructed another employee to close the premises. He went out to dinner and had a drink of sake with dinner, which he shouldn't have had, and he returned to the store just to get his ride home. But again, we don't contest the violation. Only as a matter of mitigating circumstances, I wanted to explain a little bit more about what happened. But the allegation being that there were multiple employees, there was another employee present who was tested, and he tested clean. There was no other evident intoxication. We want to mention that that proactive measures have been taken to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Part of that is my discussion with Mr. Yoon about the seriousness of the violation and his determination that he will never even go out to lunch or after work, if he's going to return to the premises, have any imbibing of alcohol. He has also made that clear to every employee that it's a policy of the company that there's to be no drinking either at the premises or during breaks or when there's any possibility of an employee being present back on the premises. They're just not supposed to be consuming alcohol. I also would like to point out that the company itself underwent TIPS training last spring in response to the previous violation. That was a sale to minor, and that was handled, and of course, as is recommended by the resolution that I saw in the meeting packet tonight, my client will submit to retraining everybody. I noticed in response to the Maggiano's item, it jogged my memory, and I asked my client, he does have one new employee who's a server who hasn't taken the training, and we will make sure that that happens too. Of course, it will be part of what the retraining of all of the server employees, so we will comply with that. I also would like to note for the record the positive step that the store registers are now equipped with new software technology that involves facial recognition in comparison with driver's licenses and software that checks the driver's license numbers for compliance. And anytime there's a liquor sale, that is checked at the register, and if there is any non-matching incident, that stops the transaction and calls for the manager to get involved immediately. So we have a higher level of protection than we have ever had before there. Also, my client points out that they have new upgraded security cameras in operation, which is a further protection. And I also want to point out the value of the store itself to the community, because Mr. Yoon has told me that they not only serve the local general population and the specific Asian community, which H Mart caters to across the country, but because of their unique blend of services and the ethnic nature, my client's store draws people into Troy from Ann Arbor, Lansing, Novi, Clinton Township. He knows regular customers that come from all of those locations, and that's a positive factor here as far as being good for the city, and also, they have been so successful that they're in the process of an expansion, which again is a boon to the city and to serving the customers, and also means that my client is a provider of jobs and in general is a very good member of the community, and again takes this very seriously. So I thank the council for their, and I make these representations. Again, my client has a little bit of a difficulty with the language problem, but we have discussed these, and I'm representing all of what he has told me. And so I thank you for your attention, and I ask if the council has any questions.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilwoman Abraham.
You mentioned you have a new employee that's starting and they'll be trained, but how do you keep track of employees that have been working for several months? Do they have quarterly, yearly training?
All of them have had TIPS training within the last year. We don't have a specific policy about retraining, but I can certainly discuss that especially with Catherine Lee from the head office, and see if they will implement something like that, and we'd certainly be amenable to it.
Councilman Henderson.
TIPS training, does that include the responsibility of an owner of a business in alcohol use on premise? Is that included in that package of training?
I believe it is. Mr. Yoon, you had the training, didn't you? Oh, only the cashier. Okay, I'm going to offer to have Mr. Yoon take. Okay, at this time, what we complied with the recommendation last year by having all of the servers trained. Mr. Yoon technically isn't a server, but given his position as a manager, we would agree that he should have the training too, and we will get him certified with this new round. Thank you.
If I could follow up to that, quite honestly, I was going to move in this resolution that we strike the word all serving employees, strike serving and put all employees, because this was an instance that didn't involve servers.
No, it's not a violation that a server would be guilty of. It's a general thing.
I was going, when this got moved, I was going to strike serving and have all employees.
Whatever the council decides is proper, we will comply with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Councilwoman Hoderick? Let me call on Councilwoman Hoderick first.
You've had the training for the existing. We have a new employee. Does that employee understand in advance of the formal training that if they serve an underage customer that they can lose their job? Do they already know that up front as part of a condition of the hiring? Or does that not happen until a month later when they get their training?
I think that is a condition of hiring, but I don't know if Mr. Yoon can address that. Yes, they are instructed, so they haven't had the formal TIPS training. We will see that it happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I encourage you to reach out to the Troy Community Coalition for their assistance?
Yes.
I think you could use their help.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Yoon, do you understand that the council is also asking you to contact the community outreach organization and deal with them as far as, helping your situation? Is it okay? And I think, do we have a business card or a contact from? I will see that my client follows up with a contact on this, and I thank the council for that suggestion.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I'd like to ask Mr. Yoon also, I'm reading the police report here, Have we addressed the other problems with the store? I mean, I noticed that he...
Yes, I can address that. Specifically, I think, are you referring to the sanitation items, et
Yes.
cetera? Yes. That was all dealt with initially when this report was generated, and there was a follow-up health inspection, and they've got a clean bill of health on that.
So we don't have any problems with rats in the building?
No, none at all.
Councilwoman Hoderick.
Just as a suggestion, I like this hiring sheet that Tabuli, I mean, in the spirit of helping one another out up here, immediately upon hiring, I think before someone can take the floor and punch in even for a minute, this one pager at least puts that in front of you, and they're signing and understanding. And then, of course, the tips training, of course, on top of
Yes.
that. But
I'd love to get a copy of that.
if you're a young person coming into, and I guess I say this on behalf of this establishment or any, this idea of a one-pager that, you know, a manager hiring somebody goes over with a young employee and they sign, that's very impactful to a young person, even an older person, just to have this back in front of your face. And this is an outstanding example. So I would encourage you to reference that as well.
I agree. Thank you.
Questions from council? Thank you. Did you wish to offer anybody else? Or we all set? We all set?
Hello. Nice to meet everybody here. My name is Nick Hanawa. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm the landlord and the property manager at the Golden Gate Plaza on 16 Mount DeQuinder Road. I'm also an attorney, as Mr. Shizmansky mentioned, but I'm just here in a personal capacity, and I thought that I should be here to let the council know couple things about H-Mart from my perspective, and of the fact that I'm there very often at the property. I'm engaged with management and several of the other tenants for issues we've had in the past, but I'm frequently there. And so H-Mart I think, is a huge benefit to Troy, to the community in Troy. It services many Asian members of the community, and I can tell that by the flow of traffic that has been created by H-Mart being a part of the shopping center, as well as other members of other nationalities that shop at H-Mart. I myself am a customer of H-Mart. I've spoken to many different people from all over the state just casually in mentioning to them about the property, them telling me that I've heard even as far as people from Plymouth that come to shop at H-Mart to buy unique items that they would only sell at their store. And so I did get this notice from the city. I received a notice, and so I had a chance to speak to corporate about it, and I'm really just, I'm okay with everything they told me. I'm happy with what I heard, and I truly believe that this was an isolated incident. It will not happen again, and if that means anything, I just want to put that out there for the mayor and for the city council to hear. So thank you very much for your consideration in the matter.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I appreciate that he does a good business in town, but he also needs to know the severity of the charges and the problems in the past. So if he wants to continue doing business in Troy, you need to keep
Yes,
an eye on that.
he's very serious about making sure that there are no further problems. And again, that's part of the seriousness of the evidence is the central office representative, the landlord, my own presentation, and his willingness to comply with whatever you want to require as far as the training. And we will follow up, with the community outreach organization and with, I'd like to get a copy of that one pager too. So I can follow up on that in the next day or two.
Are there questions from council? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honors.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I'd like to move C1D, liquor violations, H-Mart of Troy LLC, as printed.
Could we strike serving out of that resolution so that all employees receive the training as opposed to just servers?
Sure.
Then I will support that.
Okay.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington and supported by the chair that we approve C1D as printed, except striking the word serving from the document. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Thank you. Next, I will open a public hearing for C1E, the American Polish Cultural Center. Welcome again, Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Here we have American Polish Cultural Center. They were part of the Police Department's Directed Patrol Unit compliance operation on February 20th, 2015. In this instance, this is a little unusual as well. The minor decoy entered the restaurant and ordered a beer from a server who himself was underage, and that server recognized that though he could take the order, he could not serve the order. That server did not ask for identification, did not inquire of the minor decoy his age. That server then obtained help from another server who then delivered the beer to the minor decoy. That server who actually delivered the beer did not ask for the minor decoy's age nor ask for any identification. It's my understanding that at the MLCC, the American Polish Cultural Center did enter a plea of acknowledgement, and they were ordered to pay a $400 fine. American Polish Cultural Center has been licensed in the city of Troy since 1989, and they have not had a violation such as this since 1996. They are represented by counsel today. Her name is Jessica Hallmark, and she has with her the president of the American Polish Cultural Center, Richard Conrad.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jessica Hallmark, appearing for the American Polish Cultural Center. As Mr. Frayne said, I have with me Richard Conrad, who is the president, and I also have with me Margaret Wojciechowski, who is the general manager of the Cultural Center. As Mr. Frayne indicated, this incident took place in February of last year, so a little bit over a year ago. Immediately following the incident, the management distributed a written policy to all of the employees stating that they were to card every patron ordering alcohol, and that failure to do so would result in disciplinary action, possibly including discharge for any failure to card any individual who is ordering alcohol. They have also retrained all of the supervisory staff and all of their servers since this incident took place. And as Mr. Frayne said, they've been licensed. They've had a liquor license in the community since 1989. They've had the Class C resort license since 1994. This is only the second incident that they've had, and the previous one was, I think, nearly 20 years ago. In 1996 was the previous violation. In looking at the Michigan Liquor Control Commission records that were included in your materials, they've undergone I think it's 32 compliance tests. They've undergone 78 liquor inspections during that time since 1996, and this is the first time they've had a subsequent violation.
Thank you.
Any questions from the council?
Councilman Baker?
What happened with the two employees that were involved?
The two employees who were involved were suspended without pay for 1 week. And they were both subsequently retrained. They did feel that there were some mitigating circumstances here. The older employee who did ultimately serve the decoy was extremely remorseful, realized his mistake. He's an employee of long standing. He's a person who has a family. He was retrained and given another opportunity to and he's been an excellent employee.
Councilman Baker.
I just have to say, it's interesting to me. In a certain respect, the underage employee who did the right thing, I think, he should be
Yes.
commended for that. I mean, he
Yes.
actually knew the rules, so I have a certain amount of respect for that. I'm just very curious though what the result was for both of them, but you explained that. So.
They both of them were suspended, including the younger employee, and they also have communicated to the underage employees. I think they've taken other steps to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I think that primarily the underage employees are bussing tables, so they're not as likely to be put in a situation where somebody's going to want to order from them. But if it does come up again, they have been instructed that both employees should be carding the patron.
I know this council likes zero tolerance, but I know there are instances where sometimes that isn't the best thing to do. But I think if going into this, they know that you have zero tolerance, it's a better way to go than them knowing from day one that you have a progressive discipline with this type of a violation.
Yes, and
Okay.
and I believe that, and going forward, that has been communicated to them as well.
Other questions from council? I know they've been around a long time, and they've been a good partner for our city. I hope we don't see them here again.
I'm sure that you won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move C1E, American Polish Cultural Center, as printed.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Campbell, that we approve C1E as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Thank you. I will open the next public hearing, which is C1F, Marbill, Inc., DBA Parrot Cove Yacht Club. Good evening again, Ms. Dufresne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. So this is our last on-site premises matter. This, again, is the compliance check conducted by the Directed Patrol Unit, February 20th, 2015. The minor decoy allegedly entered the restaurant, sat at a table, and ordered a beer from a server. The server happened to be Maria Craig, who, as you will learn, is the wife of the licensee, Bill Craig, who is present here today. She allegedly did not ask for identification, nor did she inquire of the decoy his age before she served the beer to the underage decoy. It is my understanding that at the MLCC hearing, the Parrot Cove Yacht Club, Marbill, did waive the right to their hearing at that time, and entered a plea of acknowledgement, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $900. This particular establishment has been licensed here in the city of Troy since 1991, and they actually have 6 previous sale to minor violations. They've actually had their license suspended by the MLCC back in October of 2000 based on a number of sales to minor that they had 1998 and 2000. So their license was, there is history of suspension, and that particular suspension lasted 3 days. On a better note, they have not had a violation since October of 2009. As I indicated, Mr. Bill Craig is present, and I believe he has his wife, the server, who was not terminated, and I did have that discussion with Mr. Craig, but I guess you can imagine the problem he would have had at home. So, Mr. Craig?
I offered to fire her, but she kind of overruled on that.
Good evening.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Is there anything you'd like to say to council?
I really had hoped to never be back here again. You're dealing with, we've been through the training, we've offered the training, we still train all of our help. Sometimes it's human error. She said she had a weird feeling at the time, but she didn't follow through the feeling, and she didn't card. And as I said, I wasn't able to relieve her of her duties at that time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Actually, I have a question for Ms. Dufresne, and this could be for Captain Fry also, but I'll ask you first. These decoys that we hire, these are not young, they don't look young. Are we hiring young people, or are we hiring people that look like, they're young and they look like they could be 30 years old? I mean, I'd like to clarify, who approximately, we're not trying to trick these people, are we?
No, there is no intention whatsoever for entrapment or trickery. I actually, to be honest with you, I have not actually seen the decoys that were used in these operations. Let me check my facts here. This particular minor decoy, I believe, was 17 or 18, so he's pretty young.
Right, but they don't look old. I grew a beard when I was 18 years old. They don't look, they don't look older, do they? I mean, we're not hiring people that...
As I said, I have not actually seen this decoy, but no, that's not the intention, is to have someone who looks too old to play the part of a minor decoy.
Good. I just want to make sure that, these people know that when they're coming to your restaurant, these obviously are young people that need to be carded.
Mr. Craig, do you have software in your registers at all, like was mentioned this
Our
evening?
current point of sale system is on its final legs. We're looking into new handheld that will go table side. And that is a possibility with some of the software we've looked at, where the ID will have to be scanned into the...
I think it's a great way to protect yourself. I think it's worth the investment, personally. Because you get busy and things happen when you get busy. So I think it's a great tool that I would encourage you to use.
That's a part of our next software.
And you understand the resolution will require training?
Exactly.
Any other questions? Councilman Baker?
No disrespect, I understand mistakes happen, but you said you've done this training lots of times, just it happened again and you had a strange feeling, and we're laughing about the things, and I have a wife too, I understand. I couldn't fire my wife either, but to me, I don't see I need a little more remorse. I need something to show that you're not going to let this happen again, and you're not just going to do the training again, and if it happens, it happens, hope we don't get caught. And that's a little bit what I'm sensing, and I'm sorry to say that.
It comes across that way. We don't like people under 30 in our restaurant.
Honestly, it's like an older crowd. It's my fault, totally.
We close at 10 o'clock at night now. We have people that, oh, come on, Bill, you should hire a manager to stay open later for us. We don't want that crowd.
We don't even do happy hour.
Our food to liquor, since we've been there, originally was probably 25% food and 75% alcohol. We've switched that around. We serve prime rib, baby back ribs, corned beef sandwiches, things where we push the food more than we do the alcohol. We don't want that crowd in.
I appreciate that. And it helps hearing
it
from
was
you.
total lapse on my part that night. I mean, I had a feeling, and I walked away, and it's like, oh my God, yeah. I was just having a bad day. But honestly, most of our clientele is at least, I can say 40 and up. So when young people do come in, we do automatically card them. We don't even think twice. It was just...
We've had servers take orders from customers, and we'll go back and check them before we let them serve them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just...
It was just a slip up.
Okay. Councilman Henderson.
Reading through the documents that they give us on all these cases, there was a couple of comments that were made at the time by you to the officer, and one was, don't do this to me on a Friday night. But I want to stress to you, the laws don't change on Friday nights.
I realize that.
Yeah, the laws are across the board. So, again, we owe our community as business people to treat their kids, with the respect we want our own kids treated. I'm sure
But he did say something else. He warned the kid, he goes, when you walk in, you won't get served because they're that, right on.
The police officer
Yeah,
going
he
in,
said
don't worry, you're not going to get served at
Yeah.
those places. They always check.
Yeah, we
And
always check. It was just a total slip up, honestly. I've been doing this like over 40 years, and this is maybe my second offense. So it was a total slip up.
with our other employees, when we have had problems in the past, and you see where our license was suspended, they were automatically terminated at that time. This is, we take it very seriously in that respect.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Hoderick.
I would err on the side of carding. If they look under 40, I'd card them.
Oh, we do.
Because when I hear the phrase, well, if they look young, my daughter, when she went to prom and that group of people was standing there, those young women looked like they were every bit of 30, 35. They looked so adult. So, it takes seconds to ask for a license. Somebody like me, if I get asked, I know deep down it's probably because they just have to, but boy, do I take it and feel good for a second. I mean, and if that's your clientele, they're going to feel the same way.
It's kind of disheartening when you look and you see them punch in the over 40 on the cashier, and it's like, wait a minute, you could have at least asked.
But, error on that side. And if I can just say, you guys are the leaders of the restaurant. You model the behavior, and if you do it, and you do it, consistently and without issue, the younger people who work for you are going to model that. So what I would hate is if that one time that it wasn't a decoy, and it's somebody that turned around and got in a car and got in an accident, this would seem like nothing compared to, so together, this is a conversation where we're just taking this seriously, and at the end of the day, it's about protecting people from themselves. And
We have a 20-year-old daughter, too. So
And I've been rear-ended 3 times by a drunk driver, so I totally get it. But the other night, I had 3 black ladies at the bar. One, I asked them all for ID, never seen them before. Anybody I've never seen, I always card, because we have all regulars. This lady did not even have ID. So she was not served.
And they were all under 50.
And they were all 50.
But
I didn't know that.
And who would go out at 50 years old without your driver's license?
So, I do take this seriously,
And
trust
we do
me.
not serve
And I don't even drink, seriously, I don't drink.
That's what the council wants to hear.
Yeah, I don't even drink. Seriously.
Any other questions from council this evening? Just for me personally, I know there were issues many years ago. It was nice to see that there hasn't been anything since 2009, and let's hope we don't see you in here again. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I'll move C1F, liquor violation, as printed.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington and supported by Councilman Henderson that we approve C1F as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Thank you. Next, I will open public hearing C1G, the ANS Babby Inc., better known as John's Party Store. Good evening again, Ms. Dufresne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So I think every one of our cases tonight has been a little bit unusual. So I did have a conversation after the notices for the public hearing went out. I had a conversation with the licensee in this matter. His name is Trevor Babby, and he indicated to me that he was going to be out of the country. He is represented by counsel Joe Shalal. He's been in front of this body a couple times. And I indicated to Mr. Shalal that because the public notices had gone out, I could not adjourn this matter, or we could not adjourn this matter ahead of time. We would have to open the public hearing, as you just did, see if there was anyone who had received the public notice who wanted to come forward and make a comment, and then instead of closing the public hearing, we would postpone to a later date. I just wanted to make note, I won't go into my spiel on this one, but I did want to note that the last 2 items on our agenda deal with off-site premises, so it's a little bit different than the on-site premises liquor license holders. So with that, I will stop talking.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? I will leave the public hearing open and ask to postpone this item until, is March 14th, is that okay to put it on that docket with the other liquor hearings?
The proposed resolution in your packet does call for March 14th.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilman Henderson, that we postpone this item until March 14th, as printed in the document. Discussion? I will leave the public hearing open till then. Thank you. Vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Before I open this public hearing, is there anyone here on the Mr. Pizza, Inc.? Do you think we can get this done? Okay. Okay.
I know you want to take a break.
I thought perhaps somebody was not going to show this evening, but, okay. I will open the public hearing for C1H, the Mr. Pizza, Inc., DBA Mr. Pizza Bootleg Party Store, and good evening again, Ms. Dufresne.
Yes, Your Honor, I had not, Your Honor, Mayor Slater, I had not heard from anyone from Mr. Pizza Bootleg, so I did not know whether someone was going to be here. However, shortly after the meeting started, Ms. Bloom recognized that there had been someone who entered the room. The person who is here, his name is Jerry Shamami. He is not the license holder. He indicated to me when I spoke to him at the beginning of the meeting that the license holder is Jimmy Shamami, and he is not available. Instead of proceeding with this matter, I would ask that council do the same as we did in the case of John's Party Store and postpone this to the March 14th hearing date. I did speak to Mr. Jerry Shamami, and he indicated that his brother Jimmy would be back and available on March 14th.
Very good, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? I will return it to the table and move that we postpone this item until March 14th, 2016.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, that we had postponed this item until March 14th and add it to the other liquor hearings on that date. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next is public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak this evening? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.